Welcome back to 340. So this is a space where we go beyond the surface level advice and into what actually shapes how we love, connect, and break apart. Today we're exploring a tension that many people live with every day, often without even realizing it. The tension between self-protection and intimacy. Many of us long for a deeper connection, yet find ourselves struggling to receive it when it arrives. We want love, closeness, and emotional safety. Yet we have built lives that sometimes make genuine dependence feel uncomfortable or even threatening. My guest today is Charlotte Vedder. Charlotte works at the intersection of relationships, emotional safety, embodiment, and personal growth. Her work explores how our nervous systems, attachment patterns, and life experiences shape the way we connect, love, and protect ourselves. And together we'll explore why so many people feel disconnected despite being more connected than ever, why independence can sometimes become a form of emotional armor, and what it actually takes to create relationships where both people can exhale. This is a conversation about modern love, nervous systems, emotional maturity, and the courage required to let another human being truly see us. Charlotte, welcome to 34. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you so much. That was a very beautiful introduction.
Thank you. So I want to start with a first question. And for those discovering your work for the first time, who is Charlotte and what led you into this field?
Alrighty. So where to begin? I call myself an evolutionary midwife because I work in the field of guiding people through who they were, who they thought they were, who they thought they had to be, into who their natural essence really is. And from living more in alignment with your natural essence, the evolutionary process happens. So when you're not resisting and blocking the feedback that you get from your partner, the universe, life, and you are able to take what's happening in your life as steps to keep going forward instead of protect yourself more, you kind of get in the stream of evolution, of growth. And my experience is that if you're not evolving, you are devolving, because when you just stay the same, nothing changes, and actually you start to lose a bit of vitality and life force. So yeah, that's who I am and how I work. And I got to this, I would say I was in a way born like this, and this was a very natural path for me. There was many things that happened starting very young that sent me on like the question path of like, okay, so my parents got divorced when I was 10, and okay, so this like monogamous perfect family thing, that's not working. Okay. So there was a lot of different junctures in my life starting very early where I started to question the way that I was told life goes. And it really sent me into a lot of different directions and alternative paths. And yeah, so I'll leave it at that.
So you're exploring quite a bit. So was there a moment in your own life then where you realized that relationships were about far more than just communication and compatibility?
I would say the big moment that I had my awakening around that was in my early 20s when I was dating a man who was a lot older than me, and not a lot older, maybe 8 years, something like this. And he had a lot of experience. He had studied Tantra. He had read a lot of spiritual books. I was a yoga teacher, so we sort of had, a couple of meeting points. But in general, like, he was really showing me what it's like to be in a relationship with polarity. And my little girl would freak out because she didn't really know how to be a woman, but he could also see that I was starting to access that, and therefore the relationship would have something to, you know, stand inside of. And when I thought everything was great and it was amazing and I had won the lottery, he broke up with me. And I thought, this is impossible. Like, I don't understand what happened. I didn't have any, at the time, I did not understand why. And it was only later that I could look back at myself and I was like, wow, well, of course he broke up with me, because I was so anxiously attached. I was so in my survival strategy. I was really leading from my little girl. I wasn't really an adult woman at that point. So I can see why it's like, yeah, we had chemistry and yeah, we could have some nice conversations and there were some things that, you know, were fun, but at the foundation, we didn't have a foundation basically. And because I could not hold my side of that.
Do you feel like you were fully aware of yourself at that point when you were in the early 20s?
No, absolutely not. No. But the funny part is I thought at the time I'm so self-aware and like, you know, it's funny. I met a 20-year-old the other week who gave me the same speech about how she moved to India and she was so self-aware. And I was like, yeah, I was that same person. I also moved to India and thought I was so self-aware.
I think there are some things that actually come with living life as well, that you have to live it, not just read about it. And I think that because I see the same thing when I talk to some people who are a bit younger, with all the respect of them, I think it's a positive thing. I think that a lot of them are interested in these things and they learn a lot of the intellectual elements. But I think there's a difference, and I can also see it with myself. As I mentioned, I was sort of introduced to like a tantric lifestyle when I was 19. But there's one thing to intellectually know it, and how you then embody it, I think, is a different thing that you need to be more aware to actually fully embody it and integrate that within yourself.
Oh, absolutely. I've only learned by my own experience. Like, I know there are people that learn different ways, and I've had to be the one that like gets it, you know, wrong first, messes up, learns the hard way. That's how all of my embodiment happened.
It's like learning by doing. I think
Sometimes. No, I think it's great to just make a mess in life. Like, especially in those times, like it was so messy and there was a lot of, you know, stories that my parents or adults or authority, you know, it's, oh, you need to get your life together. You need to, but actually I feel this time was really about kind of like making these types of messes so that I could learn, you know, if I'm being protected from how it goes, you know, then you don't ever, you know, I could never build the inner matrix, right? To really, yeah.
So that's a beautiful, I see this so often with, both in my own life where I tend to think about this spiral of evolution, right? That if you do the inner work and you start looking at yourself and the inner child, and I've done this journey now a few times, and I always felt like, oh great, I've fixed this now. And then all of a sudden you're there and you're facing the same wound you've had, but it's from a different lens and a different level of awareness. And I'm like, oh fuck, I have to do this again.
Yes. And this is the thing. This is how it is. And if you resist that situation, then you kind of miss the whole point, you know? Like, I have an interesting story about that.
Tell me.
All right. So growing up, so my parents divorced when I was 10, and not long after my father started dating other women, and the other woman that would come in the house, I would hate. I hated them. They were in my space. Some of them I could not even make eye contact with. I was just so like resistant. And in every other area of my life, I was like really happy and welcoming and social. But it's like, as soon as one of these women walked in the door, I was just pissed and I couldn't accept it and I didn't like them. So now, how many years later? 20 years later, I am dating a man who has a child, and the child is now looking at me like the other woman.
And how does that feel?
Exactly. And so, you know, all this time before this moment, like I was really still in this mindset of like, well, they sucked, you know, or it was their thing, right? And as soon as I got the reverse of it, I was like, haha, joke's on me, because yeah, like I was the one, you know, in that pattern at the time, because that was my survival strategy, was to be mean and closed off, because I didn't want them close. I didn't want them in our family. And now when I first met my partner's son, I could see in his this feeling that, wow, he really does love me, but he also hates me, because I'm kind of like the representation of why his parents aren't together, like in his eyes. And that's exactly the projection I gave to these women. So
yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. So for me, it was really like, in that moment, I was like, wow, this is such an amazing experience that I'm getting, that I actually get to be on the other side of this, to really like make peace with not only the part of me that was, you know, going through that because it was challenging, and also like these other women, like, hey, you know, wow, okay, that must have been hard for her too, you know, in this situation. Sure. And then to have the experience of actually him welcoming me and without too much time, really like wanting me to be a part of his family and his life, and like having such a beautiful relationship now, I feel like I'm experiencing the evolution of what I didn't get in my childhood, of like, wow, this is what it's like actually to be in a patchwork family that's cohesive and loving and inclusive, and not, you know, white picket fence, isolated, boundaried things. So it's, yeah, just that I was just having the tools, I guess, that I've had, that then when that came around, I was like, wow, great. I'm going to take this as a journey for myself, and not as like, oh my God, how did I do this? You know?
I mean, see, I mean, a lot of this, I think, is sort of, I tend to use the word embodiment, right? That you go through things, you learn these things, and you can then embody that and incorporate that in yourself in one way, right? But in that, though, I think there are still so many people I see that I feel like they live disconnected from their bodies in general.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we grew up in a society that trained us to live in our mental body.
Yeah.
So you have your physical body, you have your mental body, you have your emotional body, and you have your energetic body.
Yeah.
And we were trained, we spent, you know, from 8 o'clock in the morning until 7 o'clock at night in the mental body. So every experience that we had was getting processed through the mental body.
Yeah.
And so the emotional body, which is the one that I would say is like necessary to become embodied in your inner world, that body did not get any training. You didn't get any education on it. You didn't get any practice on it. Nobody at home was navigating their feelings. Numbness. Modern culture is like about numbness. Yay.
I think particularly Western society today really teaches you from a young age to suppress particularly parts of yourself. That it's only, hey, you're only supposed to be good, and this is the only way you should feel, and everything else is sort of, we don't even want to talk about. So there's like shame, and there's other things that we put in place to form people in a certain way, but we actually make us half, not full or whole, right? As human beings, in my mind.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like we are a two body society. We have mental body, physical body awareness, but we don't have the emotional, energetic awareness or training as a general society. And then, of course, there are people like us and many other people who have started to say, hey, wait, something's missing.
Yeah. So how do you, from your point of view, though, how does someone begin returning to themselves after all these years of being, I would call it, in survival mode, if you will, right? Because that's effectively, I think, where people are today. We're just in survival mode.
Yeah. So I would say the first thing is the main reason people are in survival mode, in my opinion, is because they are rejecting the underworld. So you are rejecting your shadow. You're rejecting the part of you that feels angry, that feels guilty, that feels anxious, that feels depressed. So because these parts have been, you know, shunned, it's not okay to have them. you slowly, you're actually losing a really big part of yourself that's actually asking for integration.
Yeah.
So the first step is to get real about what is really going on. And yeah, okay, that's the first step.
That's the first step. And that takes some piece. That's a piece of work just to get to that step, though.
I totally agree. And I think having some distinctions around these different parts of yourself is helpful to start to bring them into the light.
Yeah. So I talk a lot about presence, and because that's something I feel people are lacking today, to be actually present in a moment or with yourself or with another person. Do you feel that is a skill, a practice, or just a way of being?
It is a skill and something you have to practice.
It's continuous. I can see that in myself because I try to do it. If I would be constantly present in everything I do, it would be, I wouldn't have any planning or moving forward, I guess. But I definitely try to be present at least once a day when I'm fully just in the now and being present. Particularly when I'm also actually in conversations, I try to be very present. But also, like this morning, I was sitting down, I was just having a cup of coffee and listening to the birds outside. That moment is quite blissful, just sitting like that for a while, for me anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think being present is really about having having your energy and attention inside of you.
Yeah.
So it's having your energetic center, because from that you can go anywhere. You know, you can think about something in the future, you can have a conversation with someone, but if you're not inside your own body, then that means you're not present. And that's how we were trained. We were trained to outsource our safety. So you're always looking around to see, does this person like me? Is it safe here? Am I okay here? What's he thinking about me? In order to feel like I can be present.
Yeah. I see. I mean, I can just look at my own life. I was working so much when I was young. I mean, I was just having a very steady career and big corporate roles and stuff like this, performing. And when I look back at that now, I can tell you that was much more, I did that much more for validation, right? I wanted to prove myself that I'm good enough. Because I know where that comes from in my own upbringing and stuff like that as well. But it's sort of, a lot of people are still just running around performing and hoping for validation, to be seen, to be chosen, right? In a way.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's how a lot of people actually received love. They were, when they, won, when
Yeah.
you were successful, you were given a gold star. You were saying, "Yay, oh, you're doing yes." So it's like the more you go, the harder you push, the more you win and the more validation you get.
Yeah. But isn't that conditional love though?
Of course, of course, of course. This is, yeah, exactly. This is the conditioning that many people grew up in, and it's just at the time that's how the adults thought that this is useful. Like they thought this is the great way to raise kids, because you want them to be strong and independent, and that was so much the messaging.
Yeah. I mean, I've looked into this now. I'm actually looking into a bit more how kids are. I think the years 0 to 3 years and then 9 to 25 are very important in the upbringing of a child in terms of emotional safety. And the first 3 years is really there where the mother, I think both the mother and the father are both very important, but they have different roles in terms of what they will mean for the child. And I think society today we're institutionalizing childcare in one way, which we can have a longer conversation about, I guess, when it comes to that forced separation, if you will, from an early age, and how that, just because we're supposed to be working, both men and women, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's so sad.
Yeah, that's a whole different, longer conversation around that. But on that though, I think we live in a world where I see constant stimulation. There's pressure, in all sense of directions. I even think that we whip ourselves more than anything. There's a lot of distractions as well. What do you think all of that is doing to our nervous systems?
Oh, I mean, this is putting everybody on high alert.
Yeah.
So there's the rest and digest mode is like something that you have to like practice. It's not just natural anymore. It's the default mode is fight or flight, which is action, which is doing and going and being on. And so the rest and digest is something that it's like people are forcing themselves to lay down and do yoga nidra, or, like needing headphones. Like, it's like you have to like actually put it into your schedule, or else it's not happening, because the inner program is not trained like this.
Yeah, and I see technology is great in so many ways, but also then how, if you take social media as one example, there's so many algorithms that are shaping how we learn and see things. It shapes modern dating life in many ways. And then you can also see that technology is here to actually save time for us. And I see that as we're filling that spared up time with more stuff to do, right? We're not, to your point, I don't think we're taking that rest and digest time. We're just focusing on doing, and not carving out that time to actually relax a bit and slow down.
Yeah, because it doesn't feel safe. It doesn't, it's like, why, what's the point? This is probably what, a lot of people are thinking. Like, I have to get there. I have to finish this thing. I need to make this money. I need to, So it becomes a rat race. There's never enough money. There's never enough blah, blah, blah. So living inside of the construct of enoughness is like, there's never an end game. So to get out of it, you just say, I don't play inside of this enough or not enough. Cause there's always, it's also an inner work of like, I'm never enough, or like trying to become enough. It's like, just exit the entire game of enoughness. Cause just, you are.
Yeah, we are enough, right? But I think it's just so interesting, and I'm laughing. I find it so. It's all. I actually feel it's sad that people are running around like that and feeling that we're chasing for something and not feeling enough in general.
Yeah, I mean, it's the standard of like what enoughness is, it's this projection of like what it's supposed to be. So you're like, once I get there, then I'm enough. Yeah. But I just really propose to people, like, leave the game. Like, you're not enough. You're also not enough.
Yeah. So why do you think so many people today, I feel, they feel lonely, they feel lack of purpose in life, despite actually having more access to connection than ever before?
I'm sure there are a lot of different like reasons for this, but I would say like technology and phones and this kind of wiring, that I feel the younger generation is like a bit more in trouble in this way, that that's how their social lives have formed, and that's how they belong, is through the phone and through this. So there's much less like physical interactions, and I see it in adults too. Like, I was shocked. I mean, I'm always shocked when I get off my phone and I look up and I'm like, wow, everybody's on their phone in the cafe. Yeah. Everybody's on their phone. No, people aren't talking to each other.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I mentioned when I was studying in Spain, I was working in a bar, and then you actually didn't have the phone in the same way. This is in the end of the 90s, right? And then you actually had conversations.
Yeah, it's so nice. I'm really like conscious of that.
Yeah, it's actually a different lifestyle, if you will, in one way.
Yeah.
So I think, no, I agree with you on that one. It's feeling more connected and still not in connection. I think it's a sad thing when we're ending up in that place.
Yeah, and I think also like this comes back, the other sort of, root of this, I would say, is the lack of connection to the emotional body. So if you're numb and you're feeling sad or you're feeling angry, like anger is the energy that you would need to like say, okay, enough. I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to go out. I'm going to get off my couch. I'm going to go to this event. Fear would be the energy that you would need to learn how to have capacity for to go to the event.
Yeah.
And so sadness also is the energy of longing. So it's like the sadness would give you information like, wow, I'm needing a hug today. Like I'm needing closeness. So when the screens and the culture is really about numbing, you don't get these signals.
I honestly think this is one of the reasons we actually have so much polarization that we have today in the world, right? That we are getting numbed, to your point, that the brain, if our nervous system is constantly, like you said, our nervous systems are like constantly in a fight or flight mode. We end up in a place where the energy wants to conserve energy. So we make a quick decision, yes or no, right or wrong, us versus them, right? And we have this tribal feeling that we want to be together with a tribe and feel connected to them, because if we're alone on the savannah, we're very vulnerable. So the brain is doing it very quickly, making a decision, and then makes up the rationale afterwards to justify the decision. So it's not even an aware decision that we're making. It's the body makes a very quick decision in a fight or flight mode. Absolutely. And this, again, from my point of view, if I'm just taking one step back and looking at it, is like, for example, why do we see men and women drifting apart and not being able to communicate in the right way? Why do we see religions or political ideologies doing the same thing? And it's like everything is being turned into sides.
Yes, it's really, and this, I feel there's the subtleties in the culture around competition, it's like everyone's trying to win. So even in relationships, it's like people that you feel more almost safe, or like, it's like gives you a certain sense of fulfillment or satisfaction when you're right.
And I think this is, I've looked into this in my previous episodes as well. Yes, what you're saying here, that I think you're ending up in a place when you start realizing it's not me and you against each other. I'm not here to win against you. It's you and me against the problem. When we end up in that position, I think that's where things can change. That we're actually, I don't have an issue with you. We have a problem, and we should focus on the problem and solving that together, right?
I hear you. I have a bit of a different perspective on that one.
Okay. Elaborate.
So what I've noticed is if you make the problem something outside of you, like we have okay, we're on the same team and this is our problem.
Yeah.
There's not really such thing as a we problem, because like my experience of the problem is different than what your experience of the problem is. So therefore, what I've noticed is working in these situations is for one person to say, I have a problem, and for us to support me to navigate my problem, and then navigate your problem.
Yeah, that's it's
because then you're not outsourcing it. You're not saying
no, you're taking accountability for you, right?
Exactly, and that's how you can come back into connection to say, hey, this is what I am experiencing about this problem.
I normally, when I talk about that, I normally say this is how it makes me feel, because I can only take responsibility for my feelings. I can't take responsibility for how somebody else is feeling. I can do it for me and articulate how it makes me feel, I guess, right? Or what my problem is, like you said. So I like that.
Yeah. Do you have an example of like something in your life?
For me?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I mean, I think the what I tended to do before, because I think I like to do it like before and after I was aware of things, right? So in my marriage, I was quite often, my ex-wife was quite often taking up things, and she started talking about something, an issue or something. I tended to cut her off and focus on fixing that problem all the time. So I went into this fixing mode, typical male behavior, trying to fix a problem. And for me now, I feel like it's much more pausing there for a while and maybe saying, do you want me to listen to you? Do you want me to hug you? Or do you want me to fix something? Maybe asking that question back, I think is one way to do it, just to limit myself. So that's on the one side. But I also feel like if I feel triggered with something, let's say if my partner would come to me and I would say, hey, before I would have maybe lashed out and say, why the hell do you do this? Why do you do that? Instead of being very aggressive like that, I can say, okay, when this happens, this is actually what happens in me. This is how I feel about it. Doesn't really matter. I mean, it can be a misunderstanding in communication or whatever it might be. It's just about actually how it makes me feel in that particular situation.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great awareness, because then at that point, when you're realizing this is how it makes me feel now, that's your thing to deal with. That's not about her at that point. Yeah.
No, exactly. But I mean, I think then we can talk about how it makes me feel. And if I position it like that, I don't put the blame on her. It would be more like, hey, okay, let me think about this, because then she can at least be aware of it, and then we can find a middle ground about how to communicate or be with it, because it's obviously not a nice thing if you feel drained with something and not feeling good about it all the time. But I think the accountability is with me, not with my partner in that case.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
So that's just, I think, one thing that is important to think about. And I think the other thing we talked about, the nervous system and all those things. And I think a lot of people call relationship problems for something that I think sometimes is a nervous system problem. Do you have any thought about that? If I position like that, if you were in a relationship and we're constantly stressed all the time, do you feel that is a relationship problem, or is it actually a nervous system problem where we're not allowing ourselves to let our nervous system actually slow down together even?
Yeah, I mean, I would say it depends on, the situation and who we're talking about, but generally, yes, I think if both people are stressed all the time, then you don't have a foundation to build a healthy relationship, because nobody's actually present.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, but we're not always present, unfortunately.
Yeah, and that's okay. But I think having some anchors and some touch points in yourself and with each other to like say, okay, we've been going fast for a couple of days, like let's slow down, or I want to have a check-in, or I want to feel you, I want to. Yeah, so it's like having, part of the work is like to have awareness of when that's happening, and then be the one to take a stand for something else.
Yeah. I'd like to think about it as also trying to reconnect with your partner, right? That sometimes we feel like if you're running around and you do work and you're in a performance mode, it's sometimes nice to find a way of finding that moment to reconnect and rebalance a bit between each other as well. So not just be in that performing mode all the time.
Yeah, exactly. And it doesn't need to be like some big, like drastic thing. It can just be like holding hands for 2 minutes. It can be hugging for 1 minute. It could be taking a bath. It could be like
something slow.
Yeah, something simple.
So what do you think happens then to intimacy when people live in a constant state of stress that we talked about? We're constantly switched on.
Yeah, I mean, when you're constantly in a state of stress, you're not in your body, basically. You're in your head.
Yeah.
You're in your stories, you're in your projections, you're in the future. And so you're not in your body. And then intimacy is like, you first have to be in yourself you have to feel like I can be in myself. Somebody can look at me and it's okay for them to see me. That's like the foundation. And if both people have that capacity, then we can start to go, so we can start to go into these kind of spaces. So when that capacity isn't there, then it's just not possible to have intimacy.
That's very true. I mean, I think one of the themes I do find fascinating is this tension between self-protection and intimacy. How do you see that showing up today?
Wow. I mean, what I see is that self-protection is actually the doorway to the intimacy.
Okay.
So I was talking a bit about like the underworld and the shadow. So your self-protection is like the part of you that is wanting to keep you safe. And so if that part comes out and you can work with that part of you, that would actually be like the eye of the needle, directly the place to go into in order to come back into yourself.
Mm.
So taking your self-protection as like, this is how it is how you're never going to get intimacy. But taking your self-protection as like, wow, okay, self-protection is here. That must mean I'm feeling afraid about something. That must mean there's something in my shadow coming out. It must mean I need to clarify something. It means you have some need that needs to be met before you can enter intimacy. So if you, and that's where you are responsible for getting that need met. And it doesn't necessarily mean like, I need you to validate me and tell me I'm really pretty and like, tell me you're never going to leave me. It's not that. It's really a journey of your adult self coming for your child self and in giving that care to.
And yeah, coming into a place where you can actually say that you're safe to yourself and hold that little inner child, right? In one way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I also see in relationships like that having the awareness together is like, hey, I see, it's like my partner can say, hey, I see that like your little girl is like freaking out right now. Like, what does she need? Or like, can I support her? Like, you can really bring all of this stuff into the light, and make it okay. Like, hey, it's okay. Like, yeah, we all have healing to do. Yeah, we all have inner little girls and little boys that are going to come out and we can be supportive to each other. But what happens is most people's little girls come out and they think like, this is it. Like, this is who I am and this is what I need. And I'm going to fight you to the nail until I get what I want.
Yeah. But
and you're completely blinded by the fact that you're actually not coming from your adult self.
I mean, I like to say it's like when two adults are fighting like that, it's like two 6-year-olds fighting in adult bodies with an adult vocabulary.
Yeah. Totally. And it's also fun to, make not even play with it, but somehow, like, for example, my partner and we have these distinctions, so if it's happening, it's like, we're not shaming each other. I don't shame myself. And over time, as these parts start to get integrated, they don't come out as much. So there's actually less time that I feel I'm spending as my little girl, because I'm not just like, I'm soothing her. I'm like soothing her and caring for her, but I'm also taking the doorways for like, wow, this is actually a healing process that I need.
Yeah. You work a lot with women and empowering women. Do you think many women have learned that needing nobody feels safer than being disappointed?
I see it every day.
Every day.
This is such a theme, especially for women, spiritual, have their shit together, in their 30s. Like, these women, they have absolutely gotten to where they are because of their hyper independence.
Yeah.
And it's become a protection. It's become, the way that they know to be safe in the world. And like, yeah.
So how do you feel them opening up then to relationships and intimacy if they feel like that? I mean, think about this.
Yeah.
How do we distinguish healthy independence from emotional self-protection?
Love that question. I think that question in itself would bring a lot of like clarity for a woman to hear that question.
Yeah.
Because in me, when I hear that, I'm like, oh yeah, I can like sense what the difference is. And I think all women know like what is independence that's like, I'm empowered, this is enlivening for me, and what is the kind of independence that is actually making me feel more empty. Yeah. And I would say like in relationships, like the main thing about relationships is that like to separate your like work or, your huntress part of you that's like wants to go out. I mean, not all women have this, but like I have a lot of fire in my astrology chart. I've always I liked running and I liked playing and like I like to fight, like play with the boys in the mud or whatever. So I always had this part of me that's like, let's take action and let's go out there. And so that part of me, I honor her, like, yay, But inside of a relationship, what I learned was that a lot of the things that worked for me to like get what I wanted in the outer world were absolutely not working for me in a relationship with a man. So I have different kind of like modes that I move into when I'm in relating, that kind of like, I'm like, oh wow, I don't need to be that person in this relationship. And I love this part of me that's surrendered and kind of soft and playful and not really thinking about so much shit and not trying hard, and like that I relating from this place actually is really nourishing for me. So it's like I have different parts of myself that have different needs, and it's like to know where is that part, in service.
Yeah. This podcast is called 34, right? And there's a reason for that. And a lot of people are asking me, there are different actually meanings with that number 34, but number 3 and 4 is sort of, 3 is more like the feminine number and 4 is more the masculine number. And the combination is actually the sexual balance between men and women. But it also starts within yourself. And like what you just now describing is sort of how you're more in the masculine energy of yourself when you're performing and doing and being active. And the surrender and being more, that is more creative and all that is actually much more in your feminine energy, right? And it feels like a lot of times today, I think a lot of women are so much more in, because of the workplace particularly, they are performing in their masculine so much that it's sometimes maybe hard to find that balance and dare to even go back to that surrender, if you will.
Yeah,
As well as for men. I mean, men is not supposed to be in the masculine all the time either.
Right. Of course. Like we, of course. And that's the thing, is that we had so much training and so much practice on how to be in the doing and the going and the striving, and not very many examples. Like I didn't see my mom or her mom or any moms in the feminine energy growing up. I did not see that. It was very rare. So there's little examples, and so it's kind of like it's a bit crunchy and weird, and you don't know what you're doing, but like it's in there somewhere, like this part of you that is. I think how I really got it was like I really studied like my partner and like men in general, and like what is there, like when I see him in his like most raw natural state. What is that? And like, what is actually the polarity of that? What would that be, and like okay, let's play with that and let's see what happens. And actually seeing how he responds to me gives me a lot of information of like, oh, okay, cool. This is feminine because I'm really getting that sense of the polarity between us. Yeah. And so I can use him actually as kind of like a detector of like, where am I at?
That's a good way to look at it. But I think that polarity, I think it is an important part of not constantly being in those two polarities, because we are, depending on how much you study these things like Carl Jung and stuff like that, I feel like we have a lot of these yin and yang, or feminine and masculine, within ourselves. And it's more about actually finding, how do we access both and balance it out, right? And choose, like you said, you use the word mode, right? That I need to go into that mode or the other mode. And that's another way to put words on it, I think, right? That depending on how philosophical you want to get, but it's about being able to access both, I think, is the key thing.
100%. I fully see that. And I think that to access both, it's what we were talking about earlier about, the stress and it's like to kind of get out of this, the modern culture game. You start to have the space and the capacity, if you can exit it, to consider these things and play with them and explore with them. Like I feel very like, I don't know, fortunate, grateful that I never entered the corporate world. I have never had a corporate job. I never got programmed into that. I saw it and I was like, that sounds horrible. I don't want to play that game. So I didn't, I never felt that I needed to do that to prove myself or whatever. Yeah. I really felt, no, I want to follow what I'm actually interested about and what I care about. And I luckily had parents that were supportive of that. And yeah, I saw the shadow in the whole thing. I was like, why would why?
Yeah.
And not many people had that, could see that and make that choice, and then you get sucked into it, and it's just how it goes, and so
yeah. So here's another question for you. Why can receiving love sometimes feel harder than giving it?
yes. So I would say the reason, if you are experiencing that, it is because in your childhood, for you, the comfort zone and the safety, so you it would mean that you actually weren't really receiving the kind of like emotional capacity, emotional you didn't receive the attachment, like quote love, that you really needed to feel secure. So actually you gave love in order to feel safe.
Yeah.
So it could mean like mothering your siblings. It could mean helping your friends. This is like, you're the doer, you're the fixer, you're the helper, you're the family therapist. So you're the one doing it to actually somehow like get that need met in the reverse way.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people learned that by giving love, then you get it back. So in the space of receiving, it doesn't really, it's like being on a frozen lake in the middle with nobody, it's like, who the fuck's gonna come? So before you can't even wait long enough to find out before you start running to the shore to give it.
Yeah.
So that you can get it. So receiving has become this like the system doesn't know how to get it, where it might be coming from, how to actually be available, like how to energetically and physically have the posture and the embodiment to be like where somebody is like loving to give.
Yeah.
Like it's I see a lot of women that are so like closed and blocked that like they're actually not even available to receive a compliment.
I've seen those women too, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I it's a survival strategy. It's a way to
So what do you
stay
think?
out of the danger zone of relating, of men, of like, because what women are missing is they're missing access to their conscious anger energy, which is the energy that would help you say, stop, no, I don't want this, shut up. If you don't have like inner power like this, then yeah, you should like stay away from men.
Yeah. But what do
You
you
need that.
so what creates emotional safety, do you think, in a relationship, love? If you think about that.
What creates emotional safety in relationship?
Yeah.
Is that your question?
Yes.
What
On
creates
that.
emotional safety is that both people have access to their feelings. They know how to use them to say yes, say no, create what they want, take risks, protect themselves. They also have the distinction between an emotion that's from their past and a feeling that's about right now.
Mm.
And they know how to handle it if it's an emotion from the past. And they also know that if they're triggered, for example, if I am triggered, that it is my responsibility to heal my trigger. It's not my partner's responsibility. So emotional safety comes from having the emotional body distinctions and shared practices for how to navigate these spaces. Because it's not about keeping it in. It's not about not being angry or, not getting, for example, like having a clear, strong boundary. That's okay.
Yeah.
It's about how you are delivering the information and where it's coming from.
No, that's beautiful. Just going back then a bit to what you're talking here about the women who had, defense mechanisms set up there. What do you think women most often misunderstand about men?
That they're very simple.
Yeah. Okay.
Like that it's not rocket science. That I think what most women misunderstand is that, like, they're not, you don't need to like change and contort yourself and like become more this or this or this to get them to like you.
Nope.
That they are attracted to you in your like wild, free, uninhibited self. Like it's not even about being like more feminine or sensual or like have your hair, your lipstick. That's not it either.
More
Because
more natural is most likely.
exactly. So it's like really just the more, embracing you are of your full spectrum, which like, yeah, maybe there's parts of you that are masculine and wild and rah, like that,
Yeah.
there's parts of you that are driven and great, like, but that you're in a relationship with yourself where you're not in a way attached to any of who you think you are. And you're also allowing these expressions to happen. So, I think women, it's like, you don't even have to try so hard. It's like, it's completely unnecessary. And
I think if you just show up as yourself, it's going to be the best, right? But on that though, what do you think men most often misunderstand about women? The other way around.
I think men misunderstand women because they don't understand the emotional body. I'd say that's like the biggest place where it's getting stuck. And I think, like, for example, men, their priority is freedom. So if, as a woman, if you don't know how to like allow that to be true and support him in that and love him in that, he's gonna feel trapped. It's not gonna work.
Yeah.
Women, they need to feel safe and they need to feel this kind of like chosen, like it's a safe container. And if men don't know how to handle the emotional space with a woman, she won't feel safe.
Yeah.
So it's like you have to, and it's uncomfortable for men the conditioning, not all men, but men, conditioned men, because of how our society was, it's very uncomfortable to be in the emotional world, navigating a woman in her fullness of the emotional spectrum. And for women, it's fucking scary to like let a man have his freedom.
Yeah.
But these are the two needs that both have that need that care.
Yeah, I can see that. So why do you think so many couples end up feeling alone inside the relationship though? Because I've spoken to a lot of couples and women around this, and they all feel very alone in the relationship.
Why do they feel alone?
Yeah.
I'm asking, like, why do they feel alone?
Yeah, why do they feel alone? It might be that they don't feel, for me, what I've seen is sort of they don't feel seen, that they don't feel emotionally safe, I would assume, right? That you're in a relationship for the sake of being in the hope of maybe the relationship is supposed to be there to make you happy.
Yeah, that's a slippery slope.
Yeah, because I think you can't outsource happiness to and hope that just because you're in a relationship, you're going to be happy, in my mind.
Yeah, and it's, what's really scary about that is there's so much programming around from Disney and fairy tales and fantasy that's like that your wedding is the best day of your life, and until you have that moment, like everything else is like sucks, like everything else is, nothing compares to that when like finally you get and so, wow, so much pressure on such a moment. And so much pressure on relationships being the answer to a man, being the answer to the emptiness and the loneliness and
or a woman, life. The other way around.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
No, but I think I think people are rushing into those things sometimes without being aware of yourself, and they don't have the driver license to be in a relationship in one way, I would almost say.
I totally agree. It scares me to see how many people, I mean, yeah, this is how our parents did it. It's like, it's just what you do. It's like you get a job, you meet someone. Okay, it's enough. Great. We get married. We have 5 kids, whatever, and now, people, it's almost like that pattern. There's too much like desire for self, like, I feel people are so aware of like, what if I have a purpose, and what if there's something more to life, and what if, and having experiences of like kind of ecstasy or like real aliveness or deep intimacy, you have it once and then you're like, wait a second, my whole life needs to be rearranged because I want that in my life. I don't want this like ordinary shit.
Yeah, but I think I think that is also a dangerous slope to go down, because you can actually risk something that is actually quite healthy for you to be in something that might be in a spike moment. If you're chasing the spike moment all the time and try to make that your neutral, I think you're recalibrating yourself in a way that is probably not going to be very healthy in the long run.
Definitely. I'm definitely not promoting like the roller coaster experience. But it's like getting the imprint, you know, like I remember the first time I had a connection with a man that was like so much deeper than anything I had ever seen between my parents. And so like, and I was like, wow, this is so amazing and beautiful.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's possible for everybody.
I think so.
But all of the resistance, the survival strategies, the emotions, the fears, these are the things that are just in the way.
Yeah, but on that though, what are you most concerned about or worried about when it comes to modern relationships today? When you look at all the people you work with and
yeah. I guess I'm most concerned about like the woman-man polarity, like going in the wrong, both are going in the wrong direction. Like
we're going too far away from each other, more or less.
Yeah, like women becoming more independent. The more you're independent, the more you feel safe there, the scarier it is to let go, you know, and then men have kind of lost their balls. Like they're kind of like submitting to these like, you know, neurotic controlling women, and then they're losing their like life force, and they're becoming more, there's more like fucking vaccines and shit like this, so that it's like men become more beta in a way. And because it's like, because of the whole narrative in the media is like about being nice and including everyone. So men have like lost their warrior energy of like, okay, fuck this. This is bullshit. Like, you know, there's interesting study about men that it is 1% of men that can do more than 40 push-ups.
Yeah.
So 90, like the rest of the man in the whole, you can't even do 10, no, and then it's like, and then it goes a huge drop, and then it's like 0 to 3 push-ups. So it's like, okay, if you can't do 5 push-ups, like you need the fucking testosterone, sir. So this is important, you know, like, because if what I see a lot in some of the couples I work with is a woman who's like fucking controlling and fierce and telling and leading the charge. And he's just like, okay, whatever you want. And he's scared of her. And I'm like, yo, stand up to this woman. Like, take your space.
Yeah, but set a boundary, right? I think that's what's needed there. Yes,
but then women are thinking, oh no, it's violent, it's dangerous. That a man is like powerful, so they actually end up choosing these kind of like pushover ones so that they can be in control because that feels more safe than actually a man who's like, hey, you're out of line. Some of the best feedback I ever got was from my partner, who's like a very clear masculine presence, like that nobody else would tell me. And it's like, it was so painful to hear, but it was also it was like, he was creating such a clarity and a boundary of like, no, I'm not going to let you do this, like this bullshit. And I could have imagined in that situation, like 99 other women that would have just left him because of that. It's like, how dare you say that?
I hear women leaving men because they have the wrong shoe brand, right? So,
yeah, so it's like, you know, I think like to revalue actually the masculine clarity has been really important for me specifically, is like to start to be quite like, okay, well, maybe he's really got something like screwed on right about what he's saying. And if I were to really listen to it, like how would it support my life? And it's somehow this trust. I mean, it's also about repairing the trust in the masculine in general. That like a lot of women think, well, what's the fucking point? You know, my dad wasn't around. He was not emotionally available. Like my mom did everything. I don't need a man. I'm fine.
I mean, that is the one thing I've seen in a lot of, particularly younger women I've seen today, talk to. They're saying the fact that, you know, they don't even need a man to get pregnant nowadays, right?
Yeah, no.
The only thing they need a man for is to be emotionally present or emotionally safe with them, right?
Yeah, and the thing is, you can well, no, not even that. You don't need that from a man anymore because you can get emotional safety and presence from other women.
Yeah, you can do that too. But yeah, but then you don't necessarily need a man in that case, right?
That's what's happening is that
Yeah.
the need actually starts to get lower, and then what happens is because then you've really like emboldened yourself in that. And
Yeah.
what I believe, I guess, is that it's just the design in a way is man woman, and I really see all the times that I'm like, oh, would be easier to like be on my own, and that's really like that's the edge where you have to stay, because the real like the fullness of what I really want in my life is to be in a partnership and in a co-creation, in a union with a man. Like that is really the full expansion of my life. It's not to be on my own. So that's kind of like what, women have to start to face, like, okay, shit.
For me, I think the one place where you will see how far you've come with yourself is only in a long-term relationship.
Yeah, totally.
Because that's when you get triggered. I mean, I'm not talking about the rosy teen, the Disney version of a relationship. I'm talking more about a real relationship where you actually feel you will get triggered by your partner. There's a mirror coming up there. And I think that actually shows you where you need to work with yourself.
Exactly.
In one way.
Exactly. No, that's exactly what a trigger is. A trigger is pointing you directly, shining a light on what is yours to work on. So yeah, you can take the relationship, you can take it as like the best, healing place ever, or leave and do it all over again. Pick a different one.
No, I tend to, if you think about, imagine two men, right? Both are very ambitious, both want to succeed, because I want to elaborate on the masculinity piece that you mentioned, right?
Yeah.
The one is driven by really this need to prove himself, craving validation, pushes himself even harder, and it's never enough, right?
Yeah.
And the other guy also has ambitions, but he's carrying them more, I would say, with more presence and patience. Meaning, I don't need to prove myself in every room. And the strength in him is not in terms of what he achieves, but more in how people will feel around him.
Beautiful.
And I would say that the first one is driven more by fear, and the other is driven by love. And I think that what the world
I think they're both driven by love, because they in the center of the man, he's doing it because he thinks that is the loving thing to do, or that is like the valuable thing to do.
Yeah,
one is driven by survival strategy, because fear is not the opposite of love. Fear is an important part of the inner world. It gives you a lot of information of like, if the tiger's walking down the street, your fear would warn you, hey, there's something coming. Your fear is also telling you like where the edge is. So it's not like that fear is all wrong. It's that fear from your past that has been unprocessed. Yeah. That's driving your life now. That's actually from the past. That's, pushing you in a direction that's away from who your soul really is.
Yeah.
So I personally don't like to play this fear versus love thing.
Okay, no, I can definitely see that. But I think ultimately, a lot of boys grow up to be men without ever being told they're allowed to feel, that you're allowed to be gentle, and that you're actually allowed to be whole, to look at the full you, right?
Yeah.
And to like what you said, I don't think we need stronger men, like this alpha view of that. I think we actually need safer men in that sense.
And part of that is being strong, is learning how to use your warrior energy to create boundaries, and therefore you make it a safe place in the house, that there are boundaries and there's clarity. So I think it's not about like necessarily being soft in the way that women are soft, but it's about being clear and available.
I think, in leadership, and I've been working in the corporate world, as I mentioned, right? I think there I like to make the distinction between two types of leadership. One is the walnut and one is a peach. So the walnut has a very hard shell and a very soft, mushy core, whilst the peach is more soft on the outside, but actually has a very strong, resilient core in the middle. Meaning, I use this just as a way of talking about how you can meet persons in the workplace, for example, just to create more psychological safety in the workplace, right? That the people who lead with the walnut approach are very harsh and very demanding and sets sort of not emotions in considerations, whilst the other one is much more maybe asking more gently about how can you walk me through how you were thinking right here, for example, when you want to solve the problem, without instead of saying what the heck were you doing, because the tonality there lands very differently with the person who receives those two messages. You can achieve you'll achieve the same thing, but it's more about creating that space where it actually is okay to open up and talk rather than feeling a fear of being reprimanded or losing your job in the end of the day, right?
Yeah. Okay. So what's your question?
No, that was I don't think that was a question. There was more like a statement between the peach and the walnut in terms of this approach.
Got it. Yeah, that's a great. I see the difference between the peach people and the walnut people.
Yeah, it was more like that, right? So, I mean, in today's world, though, if you go back to relationships, I think we see so many. There are dating advices, relationships, stuff online, content, whatever you might look at, right? What do you think people actually are longing for beneath all of those things?
I think it's very individual, but I mean, I would say probably the universal thing is to belong in a family system and to be in connection and
Yeah,
it's like to feel alive in yourself and be able to totally be yourself and be in a relationship. That's what I think people are really looking for.
yeah.
And I think a lot of people think they have to choose either I get to be myself or I'm in a relationship.
Yeah, it starts for yourself, though. It starts there for sure, in my mind.
Yeah.
So, if you could change one thing about how we approach love and relationships today, what would that be?
Yeah, I would say that instead of approaching it like as the love and the relationships is something like out there I'm trying to get, like I'm trying to find relationship, I'm trying to find the love of my life. It's like what I see the shift that would be supportive is actually like how can I become available and open to relationship and love,
Yeah,
because that really takes it away from like I need the outside to like get to. I'm externalizing this like desire I have to actually like I'm internalizing it and really seeing like my part in this situation.
yeah, it's beautiful. And on that, though, what does a healthy relationship feel like in the nervous system?
It feels like the love is always growing.
Well, that is beautiful.
Yeah. Like
That is.
there's yeah, because you're in a healthy relationship, it's not that there's not bumps, that there's not things that come up. It's that like each time something comes up, that you actually use it, it becomes a place for both of your growth and for more seeing and for more embodiment and for more care and more that by through that you actually become more in love and more connected. So yeah.
That's beautiful. So, what does intimacy mean to you today?
I heard this once from Esther Perel. She said something like intimacy into me see, meaning like that you can see into me.
Ah,
So,
that's vulnerable when you end up in that place.
but that's what intimacy is. It's
It
that
is.
I'm letting you see me and you're letting me see you. So intimacy is about, yeah, to me is about the risk of being vulnerable
Yeah.
to reveal, because what the reason people don't want intimacy is because they don't want the other person to see the shadow. And you can always see both like the bright purpose of somebody and like their shadow. If you really make eye contact, like it's all there. And so if I have not accepted some of these parts of myself, I don't even know what they are. Like I haven't even gone down that rabbit hole, then it would be very threatening for you to look at me right now, for example.
Yeah. Emotional safety there. I mean, and then you need that to be open up and be vulnerable from my point of view, that you need to feel emotionally safe in both ways.
But from what I've noticed is that the emotional safety comes from within yourself.
True.
Like I have to feel emotionally safe with my shit to let you see me.
Yeah. That is so true. And if you don't set up your boundaries for yourself there and you protect yourself, you're not safe with yourself. And then it's very hard to be safe in a relationship if you're not there.
It's crazy. I mean, I really see this theme of like, but I don't feel safe, but I don't feel safe. But I'm like, but you feel safe inside your own skin? And the answer is always no.
Yeah. But then you know where to start.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly the place to start, and I think the big shift in relationships is like to deprogram from the fantasy world of Disney and fairy tales, which all of us have. Like, it's so, I feel so sad. It's so like deeply wired in there that it's like the relationship is the goal. And once I get there, I'll be happy. And so it's always about the outside and it's never about the inner journey.
Yeah. I mean, this is Hollywood movies deluxe, right?
I know. And I get it. Like if I, some of these old rom-coms sometimes, like with a girlfriend, let's watch an old rom-com, from 2000. Or sometimes even, with my partner, it's like kind of the 2000s movies were great. Yeah. And I feel it in my heart, this string of like, oh, but and it's so clear to me that this is not in service of actual real relating.
I agree with that.
So
that I can agree on completely.
And therefore, we're in the unknown. I really feel like I am pioneering with my partner, like how this goes. Like we don't know, and that's okay. It's just.
But showing up in a different, more mature way like that, and giving space for each other, and owning accountability to yourself, I think that's the best way you can go forward to open up and be vulnerable to each other, and build that trust and foundation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think these are just the life skills. Like if you get this in a relationship, like you get it in every area of your life, and life is relationships. So
I agree on that.
Yeah.
Charlotte, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to join today. It was a beautiful conversation.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you so much for inviting me. And I really am glad to meet you. And thank you for taking a stand for these conversations. Actually, this is really valuable that you interview women and you create these stories and bring more awareness to people about these topics.
Thank you so much. What I take away from this conversation is that so much of what we call relationship problems may actually be protection strategies, ways we learn to stay safe. And while those strategies may have served us once, they can also become the very thing that keeps us from experiencing the connection we actually long for. Perhaps intimacy isn't about finding the perfect person. Perhaps it's about creating enough safety within ourselves and with another human being that we no longer need to hide. If today's conversation resonated with you, please share it with someone who might need it. Charlotte is actually launching a relationship course around intimacy and getting better in connection. You'll find more information in the notes to the episode. Until next time, remember, the deepest connections are rarely built through performance. They're built through presence. Thank you for listening to 34O. Stay open, stay honest, and stay human.